Hello and welcome to the top of the world. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, I'm Simon. And if it's not, welcome back. Cartwheels. I managed to acquire a full set of genuine cartwheels 8 months ago. I brought them in, they're still really cold. I brought them in yesterday, tried and thaw them out a bit overnight. The reason being, by the time you get to see this video, we'd have been over this period, but it's still minus 30°C outside. It's just... Anyway, so I've been stuck inside for a while. This is a winter project. So I've got a full set and I'm going to bring you in so you can see. Anyway, I want to turn them into lights. Now I've got two sizes, the back ones and the front ones. I'll show you. So that's one of the back ones. And then the front ones and another back one. Well, I've got place for that one and one of those. My initial idea was to put flush LEDs into there. So I don't know the exact origin other than they were off a Swedish wagon and they appear to be covered in tar, and we're going to experiment on one of the big ones first because I only actually need one of the big ones, and one of the big ones I'm going to sell, which I'm hoping will pay for the lights and the electricity I use on the other side. So my first task is to experiment to see whether I can clean these up or not. Impregnated with pine tar, I'm guessing. They are very heavy, and I would, if I could, like to lighten them. And these were forged pins. So they were put through really hot and then bent over at the other end to stop them from coming out. Keep the sections. There's a big knot in there that tells me that might not be oak until I start cleaning it up. Some of the grain here tells me it is oak. Why are you wearing your hood, Simon? Well, as I just explained, it's minus 30 degrees outside, and in here, as well as this still being frozen, in here it's about 3 degrees. I've just lit the furnace. You know, it takes 6 or 9 or 10, 12 hours to warm up. Anyway, I'm going to crack into this and see what I can do to get the pine tar off of these spokes and the hub and the grease. Thought I'd give you something a bit more interesting to look at than me. So I messed around for about 45 minutes to an hour with all the different chemicals I've got and everything I know about lifting pitch tar, pine tar out of wood. It's notoriously difficult, and what I realised quite quickly was some of the chemicals were obviously softening it but then melting it, and it was saturated into the wood. Wouldn't come off dry. Loved the smell, But as I was cleaning, I discovered with a wire wheel I could polish the pine tar up. So, and it was coming up quite nicely. So the only way that I could really get these wagon wheels back to bare wood was to break the whole things. Anyway, it just wasn't. So, and then I was a bit worried about losing some of the patina because they're wagon wheels, see? There's places where patina should stay and there's places where patina should not. On the patina side, shabby chic. No? Why am I going on to this? Well, because I've seen some really fine pieces of furniture absolutely wrecked by somebody painting an emulsion on them or some other naff paint and then sanding them back and making them look old. I've saved a nice couple of pieces of furniture that way where they bought them to turn them into this. Anyway, don't do it. You're wrecking the furniture. You're wrecking nice pieces of furniture. Wagon wheels. Wagon wheels. Let's do a before and after. So it's still a bit wet, so it won't have this kind of sheen on it. I wanted to leave, I didn't want to wire wheel the rims down too hard because they're dented and the stones, and it just shows the wear. I think I've done it justice. So these are the befores. Right, that's what they look like when I get them. that's what it looks like finished. It's not gonna dry quite as shiny as that, but it will be. Won't be much different. So it looks like I've painted the rims, or I definitely haven't. There you go. I have put a hard wax on them though, right? And I put a coating over, so that's got no colour in it, no colour in it at all. I've put a coating. This is all sanded back, and all the spokes, everything's cleaned up. Wire wheeled it all. This is what I started with, and this is what I've got. And you can see in there how nice and clean it is. All cleaned up, even in the middles, in the hub. And I think that's where I'm going to go with it. I do. I think they're going to have the right amount of look and keeping the original patina. So I've not been able to remove much of the weight without the risk of destroying it. So I've got these two steel, definitely forge made. I've got those off like the outer hub. Hasn't reduced the weight in it that much. They're going to be what they are. They're proper wagon wheels. So that's how we've got from that to that. And now I'm going to show you how I did it. And because they're not a working surface, I don't need to give them any more coats than just a single coat of hard wax, and it's a satin finish. Why have I used hard wax on those? Do you know hard wax is the most expensive treatment I can have on the shelf? It's 3 or 4 times more expensive than the expensive stains that I use, and I don't use a cheap stain because they don't work. Cheap for a reason when it comes to stain and waxes. The reason I use a hard wax is because it spreads such a long way, gives a hard finish coat. First time, second time, unbelievable, third time, unbreachable. But it'll give me the finish and the look that I want. Now, it's not dry, it's wet, so it's quite shiny. So there's quite a lot of work in clearing those up. I've only managed to get 2 done today, but it's worth it. And you can see that this one's still shiny, this one's gone into the satin finish, which is keeping the steel, but without turning it back to shiny steel. We'll do these 2 tomorrow. Well, it's been a week or so before I could get back on and do the second 2 wagon wheels, because the weather has dictated otherwise, and we had this funny warming period, then we had pipes bursting, then we had snowfall, and when these things happen in the village, I have priorities out there that overall, whatever it is I'm doing. And then there was the cleaning up. The first 2 were so dirty and took so long. I've managed to pull a shoulder, as you do, because you're not 19 anymore. Anyway, I'm back onto it, and this is the last side of the last wheel. And because it's been a couple of weeks, if I repeat myself, well, you don't need to point it out, just forgive the repeating of it. So, I'm having cleaned all this up. I've done the flappy paddle on the outside and the wire wheels on the inside and got all the nastiness off. And I'm pretty sure I said that they were heavily impregnated with pine tar, which they are. So I'm using a hard wax, the most expensive substance that sits on my shelf. I'm sure I've said that as well. And I'm just covering the entire area, and this will give me several things. Firstly, it will seal up. It will put moisture back into, or oils back into any exposed timber. It makes the colour and the overall look very much uniform. It's also going to make sure that the cleaning of the said items is much easier, which you might think is a strange thing to say, bearing in mind I'm going to turn them into lights. Well, we burn wood here, that's how we survive. And upstairs, albeit in the kitchen area, there is a wood stove, but nevertheless it puts out ash and dust, and therefore everything has to be as easy clean as is possible. And by putting this wax sealer on it, it will also make for easy vacuuming in the future to remove any dust build-up that you're naturally going to get on the lights that you will probably only clean once a year. Now, once I've completed this, I'm going to be stuck because I do not have the funds to be able to buy the insertable LEDs that I want to do. So I've seen a few wagon wheels used over the years in the appropriate buildings, and they've got these naff lights hanging from them. I've seen arty-farty ones that have got fake or potentially real paraffin lamps hanging from underneath. I don't want to put any naff little out-of-date lights on the top with little lampshades or open bulbs. I don't want to hang bits of string, rope or electrical cables with random bulbs at different lengths hanging from them. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is insert insertable in aluminium cases LEDs around the edge. So from the side profile, you just look at the wagon wheel. It's going to have some pretty heavy chains on here. You just get the wagon wheel. I don't want to see any cables. I don't want to see any light fittings. I don't want to see anything other than flush LEDs going round. Quite powerful LEDs to make sure they give the desired effect. And at the risk of doing anything else and ruin them, these will have to sit and wait now until such times as I can get the right things that I need to put them in. So upstairs in the new rooms I've created, in a number of places there's a lot of old chandelier style lights that I've taken from houses that I've demolished or have been lying around. They don't pay for anything. Well, I haven't been able to pay for anything for years, and they're just old lamps that I was always going to replace one day, and these two small ones are going into the kitchen, dining, large family room area to replace these lights that I have acquired. And of course, I say bearing in mind you wouldn't know this, but all there was in this whole building were these fluorescent strip lights, because it was a school. And the only power there was upstairs when we came here were lights. There were no power sockets, they were no anything. So over the years, bit by bit, I've slowly completely rewired the original 1940s school and added in new mains cables, huge cables from the main inlet fuse box into areas for new fuse boxes upstairs, and then spurred off of those. Because if you try to run what we're running up there on the old power, they were the old cables that were wrapped in paper, because that's how they did it then. Anyway, you don't want none of that. And then, so I'm giving it a single coat of hard wax, which has got a satin finish and will seal it up and dry it and give me the look I want. But with this hard wax and the fact there's a layer of pine tar, it goes on, you're supposed to put it on very thinly and then apply various coats, and this is going on thinly, but it's sitting. And what I'm going to do is, in a minute when I've completed, this hard wax oil will stop these iron rings re-rusting. Not that there's any moisture upstairs to rust them anyway, but it will stabilise them and take any shine off and give them an overall satin finish. So then once I've done that and applied it everywhere, I'll take the rag and wipe off all the excess from all of the wheel. So nobody is yeah, that's it's going in the wrong direction there. So did I mention the weight of these? Are these heavy? Yeah, exceedingly. Don't think you could hang them from a modern cardboard house, if you know what I mean. So am I going to have any trouble hanging these with their weight as they are, plus the additional heavy chains I want to put on them? No, absolutely not, because this was hand built, this building, hand built by men, and they didn't fall short on the size of the timbers they used. So there's no guessing about whether the building itself can support such weight, especially two of these hanging in the middle of a room. It can. Okay, so that's given me what I want. That'll take a few days to dry properly because a lot of the wax has gone on top of the pine tar, and normally of course it would be drawn into the timber. So there we go. Much improved, I think you'll agree. Thank heavens for that. That is a nasty job. So there's about 4 or 5 hours in each wheel. So if we say I've got 20 hours into those 4, we would be about right there. Now if you were going for a full renovation and you wanted to take these apart and then rebuild them, firstly I wouldn't recommend it, and secondly you would probably have 120 hours into each wheel. And there you go. So you could, if you wanted to, put those outside for garden art. The building's big enough and strong enough, you could mount them on the wall. If you were so inclined and you had 2, you could actually mount them on the wall and build a flat wagon that goes on top. My walls are so big. But wagon wheel lights is kind of on the list that needs to be ticked off. I've been looking for wagon wheels for the last 8 years. The ones that I found are very expensive, fake or new, or too far away. These just happened to be in a building where I was, and thus we've gained the wagon wheels. Well, that's all I've got for you on this one. We've got to wait now. Who knows how long we're going to wait. Restored wagon wheels. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.